Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Sean from Retaliation Resale with another edition of Bathroom Books. And it's called Bathroom Books for those of you who haven't been here before because I'm in the bathroom because it is the only room in the house that actually has space where I can shoot a video. Everything else is full of boxes and books, which if you resell books on Amazon like I do, that's a good problem to have, but not so good if you need to shoot a video. And I knocked over the crutches. I haven't been putting out the amount of videos that I want to because unfortunately I got the results of the MRI back and I fractured my tibia and I've torn my meniscus. So I will be undergoing surgery hopefully in a couple of weeks, depending on how long it takes my workers' comp rep to get the paperwork rolling. So we'll see what happens with that. But theoretically, in a few weeks, I'll be having surgery on the knee. So in this edition of Bathroom Books, like normal, I go over 7 books, but I'm going to include their value, whether or not they're profitable, so you can actually take a look for yourself. And again, these are 7 books that they could be worth a lot of money, they could be worth nothing. They have some kind of interest to me, and that's why I'm sharing them with you. So the first book, this book is not valuable, but this is Understanding Jamaican Patois, P-A-T-O-I-S, I believe it's a French word. And basically, from what I understand, it's not really slang, it's just sort of the way they talk, like Native Hawaiians will speak a sort of pidgin English or pidgin. And this book covers a lot of pronunciation and talks some history. I will try and demonstrate some of that. Dem depon indressa, which they say means they're on the dresser. Or, Aya so dem de. Are they right here? Okay. Some of the stuff you can understand, other stuff like, wait, how do they get that from that? I don't understand it, but it's interesting. And if you're going to Jamaica, you might want Understanding Jamaican Patois. An introduction to Afro-Jamaican grammar. And this book, unfortunately, is not worth sending into Amazon FBA, but it is of interest. This next book, Galway Canal. And this is a book of poetry. And I actually had to read this book in college for a poetry class by a very good poet, George Keithley. And let's see. One of the poems is, There Are Things I Tell No One. And for the class, we had to pick a poem and read it out loud and explain why we like this particular poem. This is not the poem that I picked, I remember that, but another member of my class picked it, and I wish I could remember the guy's name, but he wrote this great poem called Espresso, and he picked this poem, There Are Things I Tell No One, and I'll just read the first stanza. It's 4 lines, it's only 4 lines. There are things I tell no one. Those close to me might think I was sad and try to comfort me, or become sad themselves. At such times I go off alone, in silence, as if listening for God. And the reason I picked this example is, I remember talking to this guy. He was an older gentleman. So this was when I was going to school. You know, I'm in my early 20s, and he was probably like mid-40s. So not old, considering I just turned 59 on Tuesday. But he was older. And I remember he was talking about some class that he was in when he was younger. And as part of whatever they were doing, some exercise, he had to say that he was gay. And he had a really big problem with that because he's straight. He's like married, I think, with a couple of kids. And he talked about how he just for the longest time, he couldn't say it. So, and finally he overcame it and said it and whatever. I don't know. I think the exercise was just to be sort of creative and be something different than what you were. So I think it's funny that he had a hard time saying, I am gay, when he wasn't. And it was clear that he wasn't. and the poem he picked was There Are Things I Tell No One. So, anyway, I'm easily amused. Galway Kinnell, old school I was gonna say old school puppet, but no, old school poet. I will show the Amazon ScoutIQ page for this. I think it sold like 1 copy in the last 6 months. So Galway is not a very popular poet these days. Galway, not a very common name unless you're in Ireland. There's the Ed Sheeran song Galway Girl, and Steve Earle has a great song called Galway Girl. Those are 2 different songs, but you know, I just remember the Steve Earle line. Her hair was what is a poor boy to do? Her hair was black, her eyes were blue. And that kind of sums it up if you're a guy and you're in love. Next book, Russell Brand, Recovery, Freedom from Our Addictions. I never thought much of Russell Brand. I do like his podcast, but I never really thought much of him until I read an article that he wrote right after the singer Amy Winehouse died. And it was a sort of very caring, very loving, very sympathetic article about Amy and her addiction. And there was a lot of compassion in it. And I realized once I read it that he must be in recovery. I was in recovery, still am. It's been January 1st, 1990, whatever that is, for alcohol. This is a book I put aside. I do want to read it. Unfortunately, it doesn't have value. I think when I first scanned it, and I've had this for a while now, I think it was worth just over a couple of bucks, and now I think it's only worth $1 or maybe a little less. But a good book if you're so inclined to addiction. He's a very good writer from that piece, so I know he can write, and I've got a feeling that for those of you in recovery, you might find this book interesting. So that's Russell Brand, Recovery. And this other book, I picked this up just for the cover. Who's Irish? And it reminded me of a picture that I'd seen. I'm going to include that. But it's by Gish Jen. And the funny thing is I saw this photo of this girl like doing that backwards, whatever this thing is. And I thought these were stories about Irish, but it's actually about a Chinese American woman talking about, talks about a Chinese Irish American grandchild. And anyway, but most of it's, I think, Chinese related. But I love the cover. It's just really kind of funky and goofy and appealed to my sense kind of the absurd. Again, I wish this was worth something, but other than, memories and enjoyment, you're not going to make much money if you list this on Amazon. All right. Oh, and since we were talking about recovery, hey, we've got the AA, what they call the Big Book. This is the 4th edition of the Big Book, the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I will get these from time to time. Older versions of this are actually, can be worth some money. There are people that get into recovery and they want some of the older literature. Each edition, there are some changes, and a lot of people like to see those changes as they work through recovery, and it's just, it's an interest. So, scan these if you're looking to make money. I've got this, and I will just hold on to it, and I will generally come across somebody that is in the program or is thinking about starting the program, and I just will hand these out. I give these away for free, donate it to a 12-step group, drop it off at a church. I will find some use for this. So I have sold older versions for the money, but I also have given away copies of this. This edition is not worth money, so it's definitely worth handing to somebody else who's in need of recovery. The next book, okay. I always like to look at books and kind of do that game of is it worth money? Is it not? And when I first saw this, the Big Book of Dishcloths. All right. This is a specialty book, and I knew once I saw this title, this book was going to be worth something. It was going to be profitable, because it's not like a crochet book, and crochet books are popular. I mean, this is about crocheting, but this is very specific. It's dishcloths. It's not mittens or sweaters. I have not seen any books on dishcloths before. Now, this book normally would be worth something, but if you look, I don't know if you can see this, there's all this damage to the bottom. And on the inside, the bottom page as well. It's all sort of broken up. I don't know if I'm going to try and sell this. I can only sell this in acceptable condition. And I don't know if somebody would buy it this way. But generally, the more esoteric, the more specific a book is, the Big Book on Dishcloths, if you see that it's messed up, damaged, the more damaged it is, probably the more money it's going to be worth. That's just the way it is. If you see a book and you're like, oh, I bet that's worth money, and you're like, oh, it's damaged, it's worth money. That's just how it goes. And this book would be normally worth like 11 or 12 bucks profit. Again, which is kind of funny because it's got $11.75 price tag on the back. By the way, there's 2 barcodes, so if you do sell this, you need to make sure you cover up both barcodes because those could be scanned by Amazon. 99 designs to crochet. The inside is in good condition. I really don't know. I'm sort of at the stage of selling. I've been doing it for 5 years. I really just don't like dealing with returns. I'd rather eliminate a problem before it could exist. So I'm not sure if I'm going to sell this. I don't know if somebody that is into crocheting dishcloths is going to want to buy a damaged book, but then somebody that makes something and somebody that has probably had to undo stitches will maybe take a chance because it's more what's on the inside, and the patterns are in good shape. The pictures of the patterns and the instructions. So we'll see. And another book, and I knew this book would hold some value too, is Make Your Own Shoes. And this is by Mary Wales Loomis. There is no barcode on the back. There is no ISBN number. This book is 1992, Mary Wales Loomis, San Mateo, California. This is a local author. I live in San Bruno, the home of YouTube. San Mateo is less than 10 miles away. Some interesting pictures, creating soles, patterns, forms. Seems kind of simplistic. Sales are okay, but it does have value. So this book I will definitely sell, unlike the dishcloth book. But this has some value. I'll show you the picture. I think it's like 11 or 12 bucks. So to cut this short and to end it, not so much rambling this time. Make Your Own Shoes. It has value. We have the Big Book of Dishcloths, 99 sort of designs to crochet. Damage, still worth something. I might just drop the price a lot instead of making 11 or 12 bucks. Maybe I'll just go for making like 5, 6, or 7. I'm not sure. Something I have to think about. We have a Big Book. Always good for people in recovery. And if you know somebody in recovery too, you could be like, hey, you still go to meetings? Yeah, okay, well, I've got a copy of this book. Even if they have it, you could give it to them and they could pass it on and donate it for you. Because there's a lot of times people at meetings, they're going through a rough patch. They have no money. They can't afford the, $5 or $10 book. And a lot of times these books get passed around. You'll see someone's name's in this book. I probably don't want to show it. But cross it off with their name and, you'll see like a bunch of names. It's good to recycle this. If you're in recovery like I am, it's, good to spread the word to those who want it. Who's Irish? Again, Gish Jen. And you guys get to see the balls spawn on my head. We have the Russell Brand book, Recovery, Freedom from Our Addictions, Galway Canal Selected Poems, and Understanding Jamaican Patois. So there you have it. 7 more books that interested me. Hopefully you'll find them interesting. And see you next video.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And we'll see you in the next video. Come back, you hear?